Hello everyone and welcome back to One Full Theory. On this channel we examine the globalized phenomenon of the sport performance hybrid of professional wrestling, analysing it with the respect afforded to other culturally significant art forms. In this video we're going to be reviewing the December 5th edition of Monday Night Raw. And the show opened with a backstage segment where the Bloodline were interviewed about their upcoming unified tag team championship match against Elias and Riddle. But very quickly, Elias was taken out by the Bloodline, and this was a really nice way to start the show. Although Bruce Pritchard's comments about backstage segments needing more physicality rang true here for me. This was a missed opportunity, as far as I'm concerned, for Solo Sikoa to be shown as that real killer figure within the Bloodline. We have heard him referred to as the Enforcer for several weeks now, but really, he's the least physically imposing of the group, and he does have the slimmest credentials, if you like. So he needed something physical here. He needed something to show him as a killer, and this didn't do that. It really could have been more physical than it was, but Elias being removed from the equation, I think, was a positive, because what we got was really a great way to start the show, a solid tag team match. We are starting to see more energy about the product at the moment, which really is critical, particularly for a 3-hour show. It's so easy to have these shows really drain your energy quite fast. And just this opening segment was half an hour long, but it didn't drag, and that's because we had that intangible energy return, which was fantastic. Matt Riddle, he was out there alone against the Bloodline in the opening promo, but again, he's a guy that has so much potential. His momentum has slowed since the end of his run with RK Bro and that great back and forth energy that he had with Randy Orton. That all led up to his main event shot at the Universal Championship on SmackDown months back. But he definitely has main event crossover potential. In my opinion, he would be best served if he had that veteran to bounce off of. For me, an example of this might be if he was paired with someone like Kurt Angle, for example, as a manager. That'd be a really strong move for Riddle because, again, he would have that veteran personality to bounce off of. In the end, it was actually Kevin Owens that answered the call and became Riddle's partner and challenger for the Tag Team Championship. Owens has got a really natural connection with the audience. He had a great response when the music hit at the start of Raw. And again, not to be starting off too negative here, but an example of a missed opportunity. In the fallout of his Steve Austin match at WrestleMania, Kevin Owens could have been one of the hottest acts in the industry, in my opinion, and that hasn't quite come to fruition. But all is not lost for Owens with Triple H in charge. It is always a little bit of a struggle to connect with that odd or one-off pairing as championship contenders, but the Bloodline has got so much momentum at the moment that it worked, even if that opening promo was a little bit forced. This turned out to be a solid win for the Usos, and in the afterbirth, Solo Sikoa did get the physicality that he needed because he did the stretcher job on Riddle. And I was split about this because I thought the tribute to Sikoa's Uncle Umaga was a little bit on the nose for a heel character, but as I've said repeatedly already, Solo needed that physical angle to get him over as the Enforcer. He needs the credentials, he needed the notch on his belt, and I think Riddle was a great guy and a great choice to give that to him. He has amazing selling capacity in Riddle, and that stretcher job was fantastic. So, great here. Hopefully they don't keep Riddle off TV for too long. I couldn't say that I was too interested in seeing a Riddle and Solo program last very long at all, but Sami Zayn and the rest of the Bloodline are just so hot at the moment. Everything they touch really turns to gold. And speaking of two acts that are doing fantastic at the moment, the next segment was Bayley in the ring with Becky Lynch. Now, one of my biggest takeaways from the women's War Games match from the past Survivor Series was just how far ahead of the pack Bayley and Becky Lynch really are in terms of the current women's division. Their physical chemistry and mic skills and their work in the ring is just first class, and I am really looking forward to seeing these two work together again. The promo itself was far more natural than the scripted promos that we've been subjected to in recent months and years, and really it had that key ingredient, believability. Both Bayley and Becky Lynch did a fantastic job here, and it was really setting the stakes not just for the rest of tonight, but also for the months to come, so hopefully we get some absolutely quality content out of these two women. It led directly into a triple threat match, which was Bayley, Asuka, and Rhea Ripley. Now, I'm a huge fan of triple threat matches when I was young, in my youth, but as I've gotten older, the more I see them, the logic issues that occur in three-ways really frequently now have sort of tainted them for me. I do prefer to see more logical one-on-one contests or tag team matches, simply because when I try and explain my love and devotion to professional wrestling to other people, triple threat matches are one of those things that stick out as something that don't really make sense to the general population, particularly since the rise of the UFC. You're not going to see three guys step inside the cage and fight each other for those simple reasons. It's illogical, really, really hard to put together. But this was a great exhibition of Triple H's development of women's wrestling, and really a tribute and a credit to his NXT years and the development that he did down there. I'm a big fan of all three of these competitors, but the right woman won in the end. I think they've probably missed their moment now with Bayley, but really I'm enjoying what she's doing at the moment and really looking forward to what she can do with the roster that she's working with right now. Asuka, really looking forward, to me, the best thing that they can do with Asuka is just spotlight her in-ring work. That's her strength. They need to keep her away from the awkward backstage and in-ring promo segments where she pulls silly faces and shouts. Really, I think a big part of her attraction is this sense of almost oriental mystique. I believe that Asuka, she would really be better suited to what I think they're trying to do with Alexa Bliss at the moment. Asuka could genuinely be terrifying if they wanted to go that way, with the entrance, the mist, even the doll mask. It's very Safin-like, from the Rami Malek character from James Bond and No Time to Die. If they did it correctly, that could really be something that suited Asuka really, really well. As I said, the right woman won, and really the only fault that I could find with this match and with Bayley altogether at the moment is her finishing. The finish is a little bit awkward. It's awkward to set up, and it doesn't really have any momentum. It's not like the Bayley to belly. So for me, she should be sticking with the Bayley to belly as her finish. But she got the win on Asuka here, and it was a solid segment. And the hits kept coming because our next segment was also solid. We had Bobby Lashley, the consummate professional, and Seth Rollins, who himself has undergone somewhat of a character refreshment and reinvigorating aspects of his presentation, particularly in the costumes and his mic work. He's been really, really good lately, really enjoyable to watch, and these two together have been fantastic in recent weeks. I'm really liking this arc. Both men present as genuine stars, and again, here tonight they were able to deliver what they needed to without it sounding scripted, which was really refreshing for the product. I thought it probably took if I'm criticizing anything, the fight was great. The physicality that led out of the promo was really good. It just took a little while for the two to be separated by the officials. If it was a legitimate fight, then those officials would have been there a little bit faster. But the actual physicality was great. And everyone, including Brock Lesnar, came out of this segment looking stronger. You could see that they had long-term storytelling in mind here, and that was fantastic. And again, we've got threads throughout the show, which was brilliant. One of the threads out of this Bobby and Seth segment was that we have a new United States champion in Austin Theory from the Survivor Series. And I've seen and read so much noise about how Theory has been, in quotation marks, treated since Triple H has taken over or since Vince McMahon's retirement. I was never too concerned. I think historically they've had that Money in the Bank briefcase holder in jeopardy. I think the WWE's logic is that if you're holding the briefcase, you're guaranteed to be a world champion, and so it didn't hurt that person's momentum to lose or to almost be made the fool of in particular circumstances. I do agree that it happened probably too frequently there with Theory, and we obviously missed the opportunity with the Money in the Bank briefcase and contract cashing. But where they are now with Theory is a great place. Yes, he reminds everyone of a young Dwayne Johnson, and that character development, I think a lot of people are calling for that. Oh, well, he should be booked like The Rock and treated like The Rock. that's a really tough thing to do. But his presentation for me at the moment is really hitting the mark. He's always had that great physique. There are small things at the moment that are better. Things like the facial hair really helps. Believe him as a heel. He's sort of baby-faceish without it. So it's a silly thing, but it's a little thing that makes a difference. His opponent was Mustafa Ali, a guy who, unfortunately, I think is really lost at the moment. For me, Ali rings truer when he is a heel. He seems more naturally suited to being that heel. His work is absolutely flawless in the ring. To me, he's someone that would really benefit if we had a genuine cruiserweight division. That would be the best place for him. But I just don't think that will ever be on the cards. They tried it again, and it just never took off for whatever reason with WWE, or whether it was the general public. So really being fed to future stars like Theory could be the best position that Ali really is going to get at the moment. The finish of the match saw Dolph Ziggler return, and to be honest, it sort of left the match flat for me. I thought there was good action there, and Theory and Ali both showed great character development, great physicality and intensity. There's little hope for me at the moment that Ziggler can reignite that spark that he once had with the audience. And Theory got his heat back on him straight away, almost immediately, which meant that Ziggler's return here meant very, very little. So I can't see it going too far. We obviously want to spotlight Theory moving forward. He's your future. He's the current United States champion, and he's in the place that he needs to be right now. Hopefully he beats Ziggler pretty quickly, and we can move on to bigger and better things. Now, throughout the night, we had JBL hosting a poker tournament. It was a thread through the show that was great. It was a really clear example of how you can run more light-hearted segments that highlighted the personalities of those involved. They established stakes for the matches throughout the night, and it didn't have to be hokey. It wasn't embarrassing to watch, which, again, is refreshing. It feels almost embarrassing to say that, but those backstage segments where they try to do forced comedy or really scripted out and forced scenarios were embarrassing for a wrestling fan to sit through, particularly if a non-wrestling fan or someone who wasn't familiar with the WWE walked by and saw the screen. It's a hard thing to justify, but this definitely wasn't that. The JBL Poker Tournament I thought was a great thread, and it set up fantastic things. Ironically, the only person that didn't get a shine in these segments for me was Baron Corbin, who's the guy who was supposed to benefit from JBL's presence on the show. It's really hard to take your attention off JBL. I like the idea of him being a manager. His presence on the show lifts everything that he's attached to, but he needs to elevate someone now, in which I'm not sure he's going to be able to do with Corbin. We don't just want JBL floated in the mid-card. For me, he would be better suited to an authority figure, but I think the WWE are going to try and steer clear of that old-school GM or heel authority figure character. So great, JBL as a manager for me is awesome. He's so natural, and when he delivers his content, he's someone that can garner real heat, real hatred from a crowd, which is rare in wrestling, in modern wrestling anyway. So it was great, and it set up a few matches. One of those was a six-man tag between the OC, AJ Styles, Kyle Anderson, and Doc Gallows, going up against the Alpha Academy, Chad Gable and Otis, and they were partnered with Baron Corbin. It was a really solid six-man tag. I actually really enjoyed it. It was paced really well, and it built towards a sequence finish that was really logical, and it showed us the best of everyone involved. Chad Gable, for me, he shone as always in the ring. He's flawless in his movement, intense, really beautiful to watch. I just can't stand the forced comedy there. The shoosh thing is cringeworthy. There have been moments where it got half a chuckle, but it just is ongoing and really takes away from Gable's strength. Yes, he's short. He's a smaller guy, but so physical, so believable as someone that can lift anyone within the WWE and really cause damage. So the believability and legitimacy is there for me with Gable. Again, I would say a legitimate cruiserweight division would be perfect here, but alas, I just don't think that's going to happen. In terms of the other side of the equation, I go back and forth on the value of the other people involved in this match other than AJ Styles. The value of Gallows and Anderson and Otis and Corbin, sometimes they really hit the mark and I see a lot of potential there, and others they're just there almost like props and in excess of needs. So, look, the poker game was really good. I think it was a simple concept and it was enough to give the audience a hook for this match and for them to care about the outcome. Gallows and Anderson hit a beautiful magic killer for the finish, and yeah, it was great. Fantastic match, I thought. Another simple stake that was set during the poker game was Akira Tozawa and Dominic Mysterio. And we've really begun the scrubbing process here with Tozawa to sort of get the stink of years of that terrible ninja gimmick off him. And we've also kept in there the thread of Dominic's legacy, and really building that through his character development by something simple like cheating in a poker game. Fantastic, straightforward. It led to a match between the two, which I was really happy about. Akira was back in his wrestling gear and out of the Ninja Blacks. Praise be to Hunter for that one. And took an absolutely sensational, a beautiful bump from the top rope when he missed his senton in his finish attempt. And that set Dominic up for a frog splash and a win. Great, simple. It did everything it needed to do. It put Akira back on track. It lifted Dominic as a singles competitor. It spoke to his legacy. It kept the Judgment Day on our screens and in our minds. There was also a brief appearance here from the Street Profits that saw off the Judgment Day's post-match attack in a really sound segment. So well done here. Our second triple threat match of the night was actually our main event. The main event of Raw, for once, for me, seemed to fly by. I've had 3 hours of Raw in previous months and the last few years that really felt like court-ordered, boredom inducement. So it was fantastic to have a Raw that I felt flew by with energy. And it was main evented by another triple threat match in Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss, and Nikki Cross. Notice here, no ASH. Praise be to Hunter. And they were looking to join Bayley in a number one contenders match in the future. Again, we have stakes here. There was something at stake. The right to fight to be the number one contender. Fantastic. Becky looked unbelievable. And while there were reports that her shoulder still isn't 100%, she is just a genuine superstar. I think WWE really should be at a level now where they're needing to manage her exposure. And we found ourselves 6 months ago or really in the middle of that last heel run, where she just found they were putting her in matches for absolutely no reason. They didn't know what to do with her, and she found herself in mid-card matches, and not just there, but actually losing in 24/7 championship match fiascos, and other things that were just huge missteps for Becky. So when we do see her, it needs to be a main event like this. And if she's not winning, there better be a good reason. And really, this segment ticked all of those boxes for me. With Alexa Bliss, she seems to be being drawn back into that Bray Wyatt universe, which I personally am not a huge fan of. I think the horse has left the barn on that one. It could have been something really special, but the race has been run. If it didn't work at WrestleMania, and lots of people really didn't connect with that visual of Alexa with the black ink spewing from her mouth. I thought it was good, but the audience doesn't seem to want it. And now I'm with them. I don't think you can go back to that. But it seems like they're going to try, so we'll see where we go with that one. Another win in the Triple H era column is going to be Nikki Cross, dropping the ASH gimmick, the almost superhero, which, thank goodness. Her crazed Scott gimmick is so much more natural, and it allows her to utilize so much more of her ability. She has amazing facial expressions. It's easy to watch. It's far more believable, and it feeds into her physicality and her in-ring work. So we're glad to see Nikki Cross back, and she played her part really, really well in this main event. The finish saw Damage Control grab Lynch and double powerbomb her through the announce table. This was a little bit clunky, a little bit awkward. I'm really hoping that with time, Io, Sky, and Dakota Kai sort of smooth out their rough edges. It may be because they're so new to the main event spot or to being on Raw. I do believe with time they're going to find a level of comfort here because they're a really intriguing partnership. I think they're a great fit for Bayley's Damage Control faction. So really hoping them the very best. Io Sky, she just needs to calm down, I think, a little bit. We will put her in the same category as Asuka, where we don't want to overexpose her with the backstage and in-ring promos. There's a mystique there that makes her feel really, really special, and her in-ring work is phenomenal. So these two being Women's Tag Team champions, is a really good spot for them. And I think they can do great things. That table spot allowed Bliss to hit Twisted Bliss on Nikki Cross, and it set up Alexa Bliss versus Bayley for the #1 contendership, which was fantastic. Overall, this was a good show. It was a far cry from the Raws that we were seeing 6 months ago. There was a renewed energy, and I feel like you really get a sense the majority of the roster has had a huge morale boost, which has got to speak to them being optimistic about the future, which is fantastic. Royal Rumble season's coming, and I'm really excited to theorize with you all what's going to happen. I've got my own theories about who might win and who might appear and what that might make WrestleMania look like. But that's the season's upon us, so really, really excited to share my thoughts and hear your thoughts as well. But that was our Raw review. Thank you so much for joining us. If you got value out of this video, then consider liking and subscribing to the channel. And until next time, don't forget to smarten up and smack down.